technology has evolved at a tremendous pace, right? You know, when you watch the old movies and they've made a movie regarding the future and they're trying to depict the future in there, you always see like really high tech stuff. And sometimes you think, did that actually come true? You know, like when you watch Back to the Future or when you watch.
At the time, it was far fetched, but now.
No, but was it?
Then.
Yeah. Because we couldn't conceive what that future would look like, right? Imagine pulling something out of your pocket and talking to each other. Yeah. Then, when I was a kid, that was like, whoa, that would be so cool. Yeah. That wasn't far-fetched to me, though.
It wasn't.
No.
I'd say it was. Even so much as touchscreens.
Yeah, touchscreens, yes. But just to pull a piece of equipment out of your pocket to communicate with somebody else, to me, wasn't a far-fetched concept. Given
you had a walkie-talkie as a kid, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. You see, but if we move that forwards and we look at other movies like there was a Sylvester Stallone movie I watched a long time ago. I mean, some of the viewers might not be old enough to remember, but to me, it didn't feel that long. It doesn't feel that long time ago. That much time has passed, but it actually has passed. He gets frozen, and there's a guy called Wesley Snipes gets frozen. He's a villain in there. They're like in some kind of
wait a minute.
Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes worked in a movie together.
Yeah. It's a pretty cool movie. And they basically come out into the future in so many years afterwards. If someone remember, just remind us what it is. And Wesley Snipes is the bad guy, he's the villain, and Sylvester Stallone is a cop. And obviously they're fighting then in the past, and they've actually been brought into the future to fight each other again. Because Wesley Snipes escapes or something, and then they bring Sylvester Stallone to come and catch him. He's the only one who was able to catch him. Okay. And Sylvester Stallone is in this futuristic world where people don't touch each other, right? They don't even sit there say hello by just hovering their hands. Okay. Looking at the camera like that. And that's their greeting. Now, if you look at what's going on right now with the coronavirus stuff, right? And even then, they were talking about, how they met with each other, even went to dating. So I think it was Sandra Bullock, who was the actress who was playing the other role. She asked Sylvester Stallone for a date, which for him was like, wow, is this what happens in the future? It's so easy. And it's all a virtual thing. They use virtual reality goggles and stuff. And you think, whoa, how...
It's a VR
headsets. Now we're in 2020. We've got this thing going on with the coronavirus. We've somehow been forced to live a futuristic lifestyle to an extent, going digital in so many different ways. Now, where we used to attend meetings in person, where we used to attend networking events in person, we used to go out for dinner with business associates. I used to do that a lot, And right now, to attend a meeting, it's all done via the use of technology. The rates of number of people who have now started to use things like Microsoft Teams or Zoom has shot through the roof. Loads and loads of more people are starting to use that. And the question we have is this a mechanism which can replace the normal face-to-face interaction? Now, to discuss this, I'm going to bring in a friend of mine. This guy is an award-winning networker. So this guy is one of the directors of Pathway to Grow. We've worked together in many different platforms together. And he was a guy who was everywhere all the time. There was rarely a night where I wouldn't see a picture on his Facebook to show us, that he's of some kind of an event. So whether it's a black tie event or whether it's a networking event, he runs his own networking events. We welcome Abid Khan. How are you, Abid?
Good evening. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thanks. Very good.
It's been a while.
Well, more than two people on the screen at the same time. I don't know, man.
I've got my sanitizer. Just in case.
Just from a distance, yeah. So before we start, tell us, how's Ramadan been?
Ramadan's been good. I expected it to be a lot harder, actually, but alhamdulillah, it's been good.
Okay.
It's nearly over now, so yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, hasn't it gone fast?
It has. It's just honestly, at the start of it, I was thinking lockdown and then Ramadan and how we're going to break the day up and what we're going to do, and it's going to be long. But you know what? It's just flown past.
Excellent. So, Abid, now you're the kind of guy who was, you've always got a bee in your bonnet in the politest possible way, right? I have never seen you sit still. When you're having conversations, even on the phone with me, you are
multitasking.
You've got so many things going on in your mind, in person. And I've said to Abid, he's the kind of guy who will be talking to you about something. He'll have two of the conversations and go, say, hang on, hold on a second, I've got another call coming. We'll talk to them guys, come back in your call and pick up from exactly where he left off.
Wow, that's a talent.
That is a talent. I want to know, Abid, for somebody who's so active in the social circle, how are you coping during this
time? It's been challenging to say the least. I think the first 2-3 weeks of lockdown, there was a slight decline in mental health, being locked up.
Oh, wow.
And then you kind of pick yourself up and think, well, these are the cards that we've been dealt with. This is what we've got to deal with, and pick yourself up and get on with it. But it has been very, very challenging. Isolation, not being able to engage with people, not being able to talk to people, and talking to people on the phone or on the video is something completely different to personally meeting people. So it has been challenging, but I think we're getting used to it now. And now it's actually you get anxious when you actually meet somebody. So we're gonna have to retrain ourselves now to meet people again.
How are you meeting people, or how regularly are you meeting people now, even virtually, in the virtual world?
Virtually, 2-3 meetings a day. 2-3. I've had 3 today. Wow. So 2-3 meetings a day, work, various things. And it's on several platforms. You've got Skype, you've got Zoom, you've got WhatsApp videos. So about 2-3 a day.
Do you see the digital platform? Because here's the thing. Unapologetically, I'm going to say here's the thing. We have been kind of forced to use the digital world, the digital platform, more since the lockdown than we've ever had done before. If you think about the way the future has been evolving, not the future, the way industry and workplaces have been evolving in the way they work and employees work, there was all this talk about how it's a good idea to get people to work from home, or get people to take their work home a little bit more regularly, office staff and the people who have got more clerical type of work or work that they can do on laptops, computers and phones. And now some of them have been kind of pushed to doing that. Do you think that's been a good experience for them?
Well, I mean, as you say, there was a push towards people working from home and working remotely. And those that were accustomed to it, I don't feel that they've had much problem adopting. But people like myself who are used to going out, meeting people, doing site visits, going to networking events, having that personal interaction, that personal engagement, it has been a bit hard. After we spoke about this last week, I actually put a poll up on Facebook asking, how people are finding working on Zoom, and I put a poll up on Instagram as well.
Okay.
And it was a 50-50 split. It was a 50-50 split. Then I done some research on it, and the BBC actually done some research on this. And exactly what I was saying to you on the phone that day is mind-numbing, because you're having to concentrate so hard on the video. Whereas when you've got personal interaction, there's a lot of body language. And if you go back to the days when we've done NLP, it seems like so long ago. We learned the whole rapport thing there and the whole body language thing. On video, you don't have that privilege. Then you've got the fact that sometimes the video, like before we went live, we were doing sound checks, we were doing this, we were doing that. So when the video freezes or when there's a silence, you don't know whether that's a silence in your conversation or that's due to technical issues.
Okay, yeah.
And then the fact that I'm looking at a camera now, looking at my face, thinking, "Oh my God, I look a table mess."
You look haggard.
So there's all these things happening in your head, which kind of takes you off the purpose of the actual core.
Do you find yourself? I mean, whenever I'm having a conversation, like a meeting, virtual meeting, I had a governor's meeting with the school yesterday, and although I didn't put a suit jacket or anything on, I still put perfume on, like as they're going to be able to smell me. You know, it's like I put
And
some,
but this is the whole thing. When you're going out on a meeting, right, or you're going out to an event, you get home, you get ready, you put your suit on, you put your shave on, you have that mindset that I'm going somewhere to do something. And then you go to that meeting or that event and you meet people and you engage with people. And there's that mindset that I've actually come here to actually do something. Now, when you're within your house, on the same screen you're having your work meetings, on the same screens you're seeing your siblings and your family, on the same screen you're seeing your friends, there's no difference.
Sure.
So it's like going to the gym. Yeah, I mean, it's like going to the gym. Some people can train at home, but how effective is that? As opposed to when you leave your house with your protein bottle in your hand and your gym kit on, and you go and sign into your gym and you have a proper workout, and you have a shower and you come back home, like that you've been for a workout. I'm finding that. I mean, many people may find it different, but I'm finding that the majority of people that actually commented on my post were finding the same. So we have been forced into this lifestyle. I don't think it will. Although the way is set for it to be the future, but I don't think it's going to be as effective as one-to-one meetings were.
Do you think it'll replace it?
I don't. Like I've done a few site visits for my insurance business online, and I've made the business owner walk around the premises so that I can look at certain things. It's nowhere near me actually visiting the site myself.
Sure.
Because I can't have an idea of the geography of the building. I don't know exactly what's what. You know
what you're looking out for. Even it could be sensory things like a certain smell, which might trigger some risk for you. So I get that. Yeah, and even lighting.
Yes. So it does have its challenges, and it's funny that we spoke about this that day. But I'd done some research afterwards, and it came up that I was right, and I weren't the only one feeling like that. Yes, there is a lot of pluses to it, and based on our current situation, it's been a godsend. But will it be a thing of the future? I don't know.
How would you feel? I mean, if let's just say it's not just on the screen, but like when you got some of these Marvel movies and some of these futuristic movies where they got people virtually there, holograms.
Yeah, and it's funny.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, someone mentioned this to me. They said the future is holograms. But do you honestly think we could have a chutney and chat with holograms?
No chance, man.
And there's been so many online networking events that I've been seeing. I just don't feel you get the same value. Body language speaks volumes. Body language speaks absolute volumes.
It's like you said towards the beginning of the conversation when we were doing at NLP, and I'm sure we've done this before we even studied at NLP together. We do analyze people's body language. We read people through the way they behave, and even simple, subtle signs give away a lot.
It's like somebody could be very negative verbally, and they could have a negative mindset, before they start the meeting. But your body language and the way you interact with them face to face can sometimes change their attitude, and make it more favorable to yourself. Whereas when you're talking to somebody on a screen, you're very limited to your sales techniques. Being a sales coach, your sales techniques are very limited because there's only so much you can persuade me. There's only so much you can say to me, and there's only so much you can win me over on camera.
Yeah, the physical interaction has a level of its own. So, for somebody like you who's not, let's just say, synced with this digital world yet, do you think that could be a generational thing? Do you think we're just too old for this?
I think a lot of opportunities will be missed if we adopt to this way of life.
Do you think a lot of opportunities will be missed if we don't?
No, because we don't want to. Well, we don't. We hope that our next generation doesn't go towards the robotic way of life. Person interaction, one-to-one, nothing beats one-to-one interaction.
I agree.
Otherwise, we could have been doing deals on the phones, and yes, we do deals on the phone, but those deals are a lot sweeter when we do them face to face.
Do you think that maybe we will now decide, like, okay, now these are the types of deals we want to be doing over the video conferencing and phones, and these are the types of deals we prefer to do face to face?
If we're forced to, I think we will. But as I said, I think we'll be missing out on a lot of opportunities.
Let me ask you a question. Sorry to cut you short there. You've been having more regular meetings with the Riverdale team, right?
Yeah.
The company teams from around the country.
Yeah.
Do you not think that's been more? It's better to do them virtually like this as opposed to in person because of all the distance.
Yeah, for the workforce, it's been brilliant. But on the opposite to that, if I was selling you a policy or if I needed to come and talk to you about your insurance, I'd be very limited to what I could say to you and how I could engage with you and what I could sell to you. From an internal team perspective, yes, it's been brilliant. In fact, we've spoke more now than we spoke before because we have regular meetings now.
Okay.
And we're in the group.
So, are we saying then having virtual communication is far easier for internal communication, or could be better for internal communication, like your own team members, your own colleagues, but when it concerns external people, it's better to do it face to face?
Not necessarily. I think for us as an organisation, it's been good in that respect. Because prior to this, we were talking on the phone here and there. We'd planned meetings, but we'd never. It very seldom happened. So this has kind of taught us that we can communicate with each other weekly or every 2 days if we need to. And it's a way of keeping the loop and engaging. But even then, a meeting lasts 45 minutes. Your part in that meeting is about 5 minutes. It's like somebody said to me that day. It's like Zoom meetings are like cricket. Once you've batted, you're not interested in anything else. And that's true. So I was doing a seminar that day in Dubai, and I had about 35 people on the Zoom. I set them the task.
Yeah.
I put my camera, my mic on mute. I turned my camera off. I done 2 quotations. I sold the policies, and I went back into that meeting. Now, was that the right thing to do?
Debatable, isn't it?
There you go. Because your mind has just gone away from that task, and you've gone and done 2 other different things, and then you've tried to reconnect with that audience again. And yeah, I was laughing about it at the time, but I thought afterwards, that wasn't maybe the best practice, and I admit that I done that because I was bored.
Well, you do get bored quite quickly.
Yeah, but if that was a face-to-face, if I was leading that class, there's no way that would have happened. And that personal interaction and that, you've led seminars, you've led masterclasses, that personal interaction and the way you deliver your talk or you deliver your class, you can't get that message across online.
Sure.
There's a lot more emphasis when you're doing it personally. The way that you walk, the way that you, the way that you carry yourself on stage when you're teaching, when you're educating people, it can't be fully achieved online.
Sure.
I'd agree with that. I would reckon there's something that we can take forward.
Yeah, as I say, it's made us as an organisation. It's helped us streamline and we've now learned that we can speak every 2-3 days and but I think it should be limited because an hour calls are like too long and you start going off into different directions. So there is some positives, and yeah, definitely some people who were previously accustomed to working remotely, for them it's the norm. But I think the majority of people who are used to going out and meeting people and doing face-to-face interaction and looking into the whites of people's eyes and handshaking the deal and shaking on the deal, they will struggle. Yeah, and they they, I think, will struggle. And as I say, at the moment we are forced into this, and there's no other way around it. But
do you think this is the future for other industries? For example, can you see call centers going back to the way they were? Or is it just as acceptable to now ask people to work from home?
I mean, call centers use telephones anyway. For them, I think they'll still use their normal telesales techniques. I don't think they need. I think it's industry specific. Some industries may be able to have face-to-face meetings, but again, this wouldn't be the deal breaker. If you were out to do a deal, online isn't possibly the best way.
Well, I guess it all depends on the nature of your business, isn't it? Right. So if those people who are already trading online, it's no different.
Yeah.
Those people who are retail businesses, some have failed for not going digital.
Going digital and going online or having face-to-face interaction, I think it's slightly different. When you're digital, you're marketing your product online. When you're engaging with your client and you're trying to get a message across, or you're trying to sell a product or a service, nothing would beat that personal interaction.
So much so, both you and I have traveled across the world on airplanes to meet people.
Exactly.
Because of how important meeting is.
Exactly. It's like it's like I'm saying. I was doing that seminar that day, and I really felt awkward. It just had I been there in person, it would have been so many times better.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's one of them things. It's better than nothing. And we're stuck with it.
Well, that was going to be the next question. Had we not had the technology to do this,
we were buggered. Yeah, we were buggered. So it's been a lifeline in many aspects. It's kept us going. It's kept many businesses afloat, and it's been brilliant. But just as a temporary measure, I don't think I could see myself carrying on this way. And networking events, as you know, I'm judging the first business awards online in June.
Okay.
The UK Business Awards. They're going to be judged online. Now, last year at that particular event, the businesses had to come and pitch to 5 judges. So there was a panel of 5 judges, and the businesses had to come and do a 7-minute pitch. Wow. Now, when they're pitching their business online, it's not televised like Dragon's Den, where they've got all the angles and everything, and they can really make you feel part of that experience. When they're doing it on Zoom or online, will we be able to do them justice, or will they be able to do their businesses justice when they're pitching to us?
Probably not.
Interesting to see, actually. I'm actually looking forward to it, but we'll be judging.
Creative, I guess this is where you get those people who are creative. Naturally, they get ahead a little bit.
Yes.
Because if they're creative with what they have, with the tools they have, it shows a different side to them, and it adds another string to their bow.
But I think that's another point. I think you know as well as I do. A lot of people are camera shy. A lot of people are camera conscious. We have no hair to comb, so we're okay. But a lot of people are very conscious about their hair and about their look.
For yourself, I've got plenty of hair to comb here. Where's your beard, by the way? Where's your beard?
It's there.
We actually have a beard for you. If you were in the studio, 1 second. Let me see.
It comes and goes. So people
have a beard. Look, I've actually got a beard here.
Oh, brilliant! Send that out to post.
I'll send one out to you. Yeah. So you can say you've been on with the beardos. Yeah.
So a lot of people are conscious about their appearance. So when they're sitting in a meeting with their colleagues and their boss, and they're a bit conscious about the way they're looking on screen, will they be able to deliver effectively?
Good question. It's a good question. I think depends on how many people are at the other end of the screen who you're talking to. So if you're talking or addressing a large audience, naturally there's going to be some form of the same type of nerves that you would have if you're talking in front of an audience in real life. It might be less slightly though, because when you've got an audience in front of you live in real life, and you can hear the whispers, you can hear them. It almost feels like when you're new in public speaking, it almost feels like you can hear them breathe. You feel that self-conscious. But when you're online, you can always mute everybody else. You can just mute them.
Yeah, but the thing is, you've got a meeting at work. You wake up in the morning, you get ready, and you fly out the door, and you go and do your meeting. You're conscious about the way you look, but because you can't see yourself, it doesn't really play on your mind unless someone starts staring at you, and then you get uncomfortable. When you're on a screen, you're looking at your own face, and you start noticing things that you didn't notice before. You start noticing zits that weren't there before. Now that obviously has a impact on your performance in that meeting, right? On your confidence and your value in that meeting, and it could be detrimental because it could totally throw you off track.
Yes, you're right.
Abid, what do you think stays with us? What do you think goes forward once restrictions are completely lifted? We're past it. Where do you see things back to where they were before?
I think I certainly won't be. I think in terms of online meetings, yes, there will be some meetings which we've learned now that, I don't need to travel all the way to London for a 5-minute coffee with somebody. I can do that. I don't have to spend 3 hours on the train there and 3 hours back and go through all the traveling. I can just do that online. If it's really purposeful, then okay, I'll make that journey. So yeah, it has educated us to an extent that there is this way of life. This can be effective to a limit. Maybe as an icebreaker, as an intro, but it may need to be followed up with a personal meeting. In terms of going out and meeting people, I predicted my next Chutney and Chat event would be around about this time next year. Depending on what the government does, I certainly won't be going out in a rush, because the thing is, it's an assassin that we can't see. No one knows who's carrying what. No one knows where anybody else has been and if they've contracted it on that day. And we've all got responsibilities, and we've all got our own health and welfare and our family's health and welfare to consider. So God knows what's going to happen, but I don't see anything happening too soon.
So the next Chutney is going to be probably around this time next year.
At the start of the lockdown, I was one of the first ones to cancel my Chutney event. My Chutney event was that week, and I cancelled it a week before. And I took a lot of stick for it online, but you know what? Yeah, but the thing is, I just come back from Dubai, and I knew what was happening there. And the severity and how serious it was, and I'm so thankful that I cancelled it, because it could have been catastrophic. And we know now that people that were due to attend that event were infected.
Wow, really?
So it could have been catastrophic. So it's like Russian roulette. You can't chance it with this unless you're 100% sure. And I've seen too many people pass away, and I've seen too many people be affected by it and be seriously ill by it. That is a chance that I'm not willing to take for my own health and for the health of the delegates. Depending on how soon they get this track and trace app going, depending on how soon they get the immunization. It's all dependent on that. But I don't see any public events anytime soon. Okay.
So you reckon that the main public events, like networking events, aren't going to be happening in front of the,
I'll struggle to... I think a good marker will be when the football starts again, when the stadiums fill up again.
Okay.
And there's confidence in that.
Yeah.
But I don't see that happening anytime soon.
And this is similar to what someone was saying about the schools reopening. I heard one parent saying that, look, when the MPs can go back and sit in the House of Commons,
which is fair comments.
Then I'll send them out to school. Then I'll consider it safe.
My daughter's school phoned me yesterday just to check up on the kids and check up on the homeworks and everything. And they confirmed they're opening on the 1st of June for teacher training, and they're opening up on the 2nd of June for children. And she said, look, it's entirely up to yourself. If you want to send your children, you can. If you don't want to send your children, it will not be frowned upon. I won't be sending them.
I had the same call. In fact, as you know, I'm a governor at the school. I've got an interview with ITV either tomorrow or the day after on this particular subject of sending kids back to school on the 1st of June. Yeah. I have a year 1 student in my house, and I have a year 6. This is a 2-year group. So they're going to go back. I've also opted not to send mine back. Look, here's the thing. I think because you know my background, I'm a risk management consultant. I'm weighing up the risks. I'm calculating risks and looking at the risk appetites, of any action that I take or the kids take or the family takes. For me personally, had it not been a case that I have an elderly mother who has underlying health conditions, I may have taken the decision to let the kids go back to school purely because they are going to be staggered. They're going to try social distancing. They are low risk group. So I would have been okay with that. My reason and justification for not sending the kids back was
because and this is very similar to myself. You've got elderly parents in the house. We know children are carriers. It's not something that I'm prepared to gamble with, and it is a risk because they still don't know, and no fault of their own. It's a totally new virus. It's something that we couldn't have been prepared for. They're still trialing and experimenting, and but we cannot be the guinea pigs of that. I maintain my stance. My kid maybe September, but certainly, but certainly not in June.
We initially thought we were going to have you for about 10 or 15 minutes. You've got your own podcast to.
I've got my own to go at 7 o'clock. My phone is ringing, so
yeah.
I'm not going to leave you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Enjoy your podcast. For anybody who doesn't know Abid, you can follow Abid Khan on his social media platforms, handles, and listening to his podcasts as well, which are very enlightening and interesting. So have a good evening, Abid.
Brilliant, gents. Thank you very much.
You take care.
And don't forget, stay alert.
Yeah, thanks. Stay at home. Okay. That was Abid Khan, Director at Pathway to Grow, also as part of Riverdale Insurance, an award-winning networker. This guy is always everywhere. He was everywhere. So
he's felt the.
It's for him to be impact. Contained. It's got to be something. You know what I mean? It's got to be something. I wonder what other people have been experiencing. Those people who are possibly watching this, and people who have something different now than what has been before.
General consensus now is things are not going back to how they were before anytime soon. I think even once restrictions are softened, and eventually lifted, it just won't be the same again. So many industries will never be the same again. So in that sense, we fast forwarded into the future.
Yeah, I agree.
And I agree with Abid. I think a lot of it won't hold. I think that whole face-to-face factor, we need that. We need that. So that will return. There's so many other things we'll learn from. For example, traveling to London for a short meeting now doesn't really happen, does it?
Yeah, exactly.
And the fact is, it's brought everybody up to speed. Zoom and these other platforms had millions of users before. I think Google Classroom had 50 million users prior to this, which had built up over the years.
Wow.
Within a matter of weeks, 50 million has gone to 100 million. Within weeks.
Yes. And, doubled within weeks.
Doubled.
Yes.
So it's brought everyone else up to speed. So now, that meeting that you would travel hours for, just to have a coffee, because that other person's not great with technology, they've never had a business meeting over, a video camera. Now it's for everybody up to speed, and a lot more of this is, should we say, less frowned upon. It's more possible, isn't it? It's more acceptable. It's normal. normal.
Yeah, I agree, because in the past, when you would have arranged a meeting with somebody, or even a prospect or a client who is like a couple of 100 miles away, you wouldn't even entertain it. Well, you'd be reluctant. I would be reluctant to entertain a client who's a couple of 100 miles away, but the project is very small, or what they want you for, or what they want me for is going to be limited, right? So for me, it's like, I'm going to travel a couple of 100 miles away, and, those people, some of them hadn't been very tech savvy. So now, when you've got this technology, you can put a face to the name, have a conversation. It's not the same. It's not going to replace face to face.
Yeah.
But it's almost like a preliminary assessment of whether you want to take this further or not. It's like added another slot in between your telephone conversation and face to face meeting. In between, you've got a video conference.
Exactly that.
So it's like added another layer in between, which helps you determine whether you're going to stay at this rate, you're going to stay like this, or you're going to, take it to the next stage, or whether you're going to retract and move back.
Another thing that was mentioned is a lot of skills will be lost.
What do you mean?
Human interaction skills.
Okay.
Face-to-face communications.
I'm not sure. It could go either way. If you've got people who would either meet face-to-face or just chat on emails and messages, who are now open to having a face-to-face conversation, that could also happen as well. You can actually have people more open to having face-to-face interactions without meeting personally, physically, but doing it virtually rather than just texting or writing emails.
There'll be some of that. I think there'll be some of that. But then again, and I think I would mention it, he used to meet people on a daily. Yeah, every single day, if not every other day. And he's almost kind of a bit anxious when he has to meet people now. Yeah, it's only been a few weeks. Can you imagine another year of not really meeting anybody outside your immediate circle, to then having to have face-to-face meetings, or to then have to do presentations, or go back to... You see what I mean? Now, with someone like that who's had years and years of experience in the field, I'm sure they'll adapt in no time, back within his comfort zone and all of this. But somebody who was in very early stages of business, very early stages of life, let alone business, where will it leave them? They've not really had years of face-to-face interactions voluntarily. Okay. They've now had a year of living in the digital age.
Right.
And they're now being asked to go back.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Where does that kind of leave them? Is this going to cause more people to want to stay indoors, stay at home, order the pizza online, talk to people via email or, video calling, and that is the future?
I think it'll be a bit of both. I think there'll be some people who are craving to go out there.
It's inevitable, isn't it? That it's going to be a digital age.
I think it would be naive to think that we're not going to go more and more towards the digital platforms or assistant. Look, this is digital. This is technology. We're talking technology in general, aren't we? Right? This is technology. 20 years ago, you could not have imagined that kind of technology belonging to 70-80% of the world's population.
Kids even, yeah.
It's technology though. So had this pandemic taken place 25 years ago or 20 years ago, what would have been the reaction then? Or how would people have coped then?
Well, there's been pandemics, isn't it? It's not obviously it's the first of our time, but it's not the first. But the way that this has fast-tracked now
for technology. Okay, let's not, look, we're not restricting this to just technology like this, like laptops, computers. What about money?
What about it,
man?
Where is it?
Where is it? Where is the money? Show me the money. Look, I read a book around 20 years ago, and that was talking about, it spoke about the different effects of, evolving as a nation of humankind into the use of technology and the risks that are involved with it as well. At one time, it used to be, trading between your sheep and your goats and your cows and whatever, right? And then when obviously commodities were found like gold, it used to be the use of gold and trading that. Then people started having so much of it, they couldn't carry it everywhere. So they decided to establish a kind of a bank where they would get certificates in return for their gold. So they own this much gold. It's a certificate. I give you that certificate and I'll buy things like a house or whatever I want from you. You take that certificate, you own that much gold. Eventually that turned into cash.
Paper money.
Right? Yeah. Paper money. And then paper money, we had checkbooks to credit cards and debit cards. Now we're not even using them much. I'm using this or this to make transactions in shops. It's amazing. So if we look at the world evolving in terms of the way the money is used, some have questioned whether there is somebody above the powers to be who can unplug something and then you can have zero in your accounts, all of you. You know what I mean? In theory, they've questioned the fact that, okay, yes, Bank of England, there are so many safeguarding measures and everything. But it just got me thinking, like, if everything is so digitally evolved, we don't even have tangible things to prove how much we own or how much money we have, or, you know, what our net worth is. Then if somebody decided or something happened and the plug was pulled, you know, what then?
Which is a possibility, I guess. Of course, it always is, isn't it? With
Ibran is saying even court hearings are now moving towards online solutions. Face-to-face will slowly erode. Wow, okay. When you say court hearings, are we even looking at witness statements? And if in case of criminals who have to give their statements, does it have an effect in any way on the jury? Does it, in your experience, does the jury perceive that witness statement to be more credible when it's in person or less credible?
Back to the creativity thing, you know, if you can picture yourself in good lighting with a good setup, camera setup, etc., you can almost filter yourself to look innocent. Is that how it would work?
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Put makeup and
I mean, you know, you could do something.
Turn the resolution of the camera quite low so that people can't see the blemishes that I've been talking about.
Yeah, so some
make yourself look. Yeah.
Funny you speak about money. I went to the bank just a few days ago, and I was speaking to the cashier because obviously they put tape and they control how many people go in, the chairs, everything is gone, and there's only one counter open, whereas there used to be 4 counters. The other counters they've just frosted over, so I thought, so they're obviously closed for the foreseeable. Okay. And I asked the cashier, I said, "Have you guys been briefed as to when you might expect some kind of normality? You might have a second cashier open, or you know."
Yeah.
And she said, "This is it now."
Wow.
I said,
"Really?"
As in for the year? She goes, "No, this is it." She goes, "There is no plan to open the other counters or the other cashiers." Because you'd be surprised how much people can do online or over the phone. And now that they have to do it, before they could, they just didn't.
Yeah.
Now that they've had to do it,
forced to do it,
we are in a position where we say to people, you have to now do it online. Don't come into the branch.
Russ always throws in some very interesting. You know, Russ's questions could be like a topic of their own. Does virtual currency empower or impoverish the economically poor countries? That's a topic on its own. That's a podcast on its own.
Well, there's very little benefit there. If anybody can be, I don't know if manipulated is the word, but if anybody stands to lose out or be at a disadvantage, you'd imagine it to be those countries.
Why? By going digital, why?
How do they go digital? How do you go digital? I mean, in countries like this...
Well, let's just say, I mean, the first migration would be from actual cash to plastic.
Mm-hmm. But for countries that they still have very much tangible assets, cattle,
I get it,
or gold, or whatever else, you know, you cannot. Your goats cannot become digital. Well, unless you're into Minecraft or whatever. You know. But
well, you know what? you know what the funny thing is? People crave that kind of a lifestyle. Now, once they've moved forward from it,
They save it.
I don't know about others, but I do. I'm not saying that I want to live in a lifestyle where I've got to herd sheep and whatnot. What I'm saying is that lifestyle of living simple in simple terms and being closer to nature is seen as a holiday for the more kind of, the
That's all it
communities.
can be. We'd have it as a holiday, which is true.
But not as a choice of lifestyle.
Not as a choice of lifestyle, not for long term. I mean, you yourself, when you go on holidays, do you ever go to kind of picturesque places or want to visit the kind of the heritage, the old marketplace, the old buildings and these kind of things? You want to see it, you want to enjoy it, but then of course you want to go back to having internet, or being able to order a pizza to your door, and all of these other things,
or a sweet retreat.
I think that's a really good question. I think it just creates more of a gap or a divide between the developed or advanced countries and the poorer ones.
And the follow-up question for that is, what happens to those who do not have virtual?
Exactly. And this is what we're saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Does everything have to be global? Does it always have to be a global currency?
I'm not sure, because here's the thing: when you've got trade taking place globally, a little man sitting in Derby or Burton-on-Trent can trade with the rest of the world who's never traded in his life before because of the digital, because of the virtual world. He can buy or create his own stock and sell them on social platforms, even social media platforms like Facebook Market. Sell them on eBay, sell them on Amazon. They can sell them on all sorts of different platforms. Somebody who's a nobody can become somebody more than somebody.
But this is reverse the roles, because the nobody has become somebody because he's got a computer and internet. There's somebody that owns crops or fields of tea or anything, any kind of asset, hasn't got internet, hasn't got access to it. So the little man comes to this guy with, loads of fields or loads of product and says, mate, you're here in the jungle. You have got no communication with the outside world. I can help you sell this. And help he does, but...
That reminds me of this story about the Harvard student who went to the guy who was a fish, who used to get
a fisherman.
Yeah. Does it remind you of that?
Yeah. And this
that's
is
what
the
it
reality,
isn't it?
isn't it? Yeah.
For the benefit of people who haven't heard that story, so this... You go on.
No, you do you think
go on, Karim. Since you started.
But that...
Explain it briefly.
So briefly, the story goes like this. There's a gentleman. He goes on holiday. Yeah, he goes to one of these picturesque seaside towns.
He's a Harvard student.
Big time, man. He goes on holiday. He sees a fisherman. And he asks him, what do you do? He goes, look, I go out in the morning. I catch a few fish in my little boat. I sell it. And then I spend the evening with my family. I go for a stroll. I enjoy time with my family, whatever. We have dinner, we wine and dine, and that's it. I do the same thing next morning. So he says, okay, well, what if I could finance you a bigger boat? He goes, okay, what would happen then? You catch more fish. Okay, what then? You could make more money. Okay, what then? You do that for 20 years. He says, okay, and then what could I do after 20 years? Because after 20 years, you could have so many boats. You could have so many people working for you. You could be making X amount of turnover. Okay, great. Then what do I do? Because then you'd go for a stroll. You'd spend some time with your family. You'd wine and dine. It's basically what I do now. Except it would have taken 20 years of my life to have a bank balance to show for it, which means I could live the life that I'm living right now.
Exactly.
And no doubt, the Harvard student, people like that. I get it. But they're not really benefiting the man with the product, the man that does all the hard work.
Look, ultimately, the digital world has its benefits, has its drawbacks. has different effects on different people. With the elderly generation who won't get in along with it, people who are past that kind of curious age of wanting to embrace new technologies, new behaviors, for them it could be a struggle, it could be a challenge. We know because of the kind of people sometimes we help in some other activities that we take on helping the elderly. You also have drawbacks in terms of how this has an effect on the youth and the younger generation. Now, if you've got too much of it, then if you've got children always playing on games, interacting, even talking. I mean, I have my kids playing on PlayStation sometimes, and they're talking in the headsets with their cousins who are down in London. They don't get to see them very often, so at least they're interacting. There's a positive. The negative is they may, if it's not controlled, spend too much time on there, right? Similarly, you have positives when it comes to business. You can reduce carbon waste, carbon footprint. You can reduce lots of extra costs by going digital. You can save time, money, as a consequence by going digital. And that's in that particular field in business. But at the same time, you can't replace the face-to-face interactions when it comes to meeting somebody who you need to meet, whether it's a prospect who you're looking to sell your services to, or whether it's somebody who's across the other type, who's a part of the world. Within families, social circles, use it or don't use it, your choice. I know my brother, he doesn't even like using the landline, the wired one. My elder brother, he doesn't even like using that. So forget about social media and doing video conferencing.
Video calling and stuff.
Yes, this is not going to happen. So he's in our WhatsApp group, right? But he never comments. I don't think he even opens it or even reads the messages. I think he's there in case he needs to disperse any important information to us. But I rarely even see him having seen a message.
As a general, do you think having gone digital takes away any kind of skills in general? Like, if you look at our day when we were kids, we could run around in the street, we could go to the shop. Forget about go to the shop to get milk. We could probably do a weekly shop. So, I mean, we could have a list of 20 things. Without having notes on our phone or, being able to call. You could do so much. You could talk to people. You could talk to the neighbors. You could talk to the shopkeeper. And all of these kind of things. I think kids these days have got a lot of anxiety over having to have human interaction with somebody that they don't know, with someone that they're not familiar with. I can only assume it's the digital age that's hindering them, slowing them down. In our age, we spoke to people all the time as kids. And you see this over the years, that kids of today only really speak to who they need to speak to. Do you think that's accurate, or?
I think it's leaning towards that way, I think it depends on the upbringing of a particular child. I don't think they're all the same. I think there are a lot of children who are very sociable. I have friends who are very sociable children who are always communicating, interacting with me, and fellow friends of the family. My own children, I try to get them, involved in social activities.
This is again, that's your efforts. That's you restricting their digital usage and keeping them in check and teaching them all kinds of different skills and socializing. Left to the digital age and the digital devices, miss out a lot.
Of course they do. You can have children who don't even see their grandparents because the parents are okay seeing them just, engrossed in their technological worlds, virtual worlds, but they forget that, hang on, you have grandparents. Well, hang on, you have aunties and uncles.
See, the worry now is for all these years, we were able to say to these kids growing up, you're just texting all the time. You're WhatsApping all the time. How good will you be in a face-to-face interview? How will you do in an induction? How will you be in a job? But this has turned the whole thing on its head because now they'll never have to do those things.
Well, in some cases, they won't.
In a lot of cases.
They will no longer have to do that face-to-face interview. It could be like this over a screen. You're right. And I think that will then determine who shines from a social perspective and who doesn't. Those people who have the confidence to have a clear conversation, there'll be people who can speak so eloquently. They have such deep thinking and really, interesting ways of navigating through life. When they share that digitally on video, it's almost as if they're just acting, and they're doing it really, really well. But in face-to-face conversation, you see them and they can't hold that conversation.
They can't hold that conversation
because it's narrated, it's scripted, and it's something that's planned and executed properly. But if it's not, if it's done,
as soon as you say that, for some reason, my mind goes to, like you say, eloquent speakers. You know, and there's been some in our times. Some leaders, some people who have really pushed a cause. You think Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, all these kind of names and faces. And you look at today and you think, I heard Boris describing what shampoo he uses. And have you seen the clip? If anyone's not seen it, you've got to look it up. And he couldn't recall the name. He's just blabbering on about, yes, it's a bottle. It's a blue bottle. It's shaped like this. What the hell? This is our prime minister, Well, sometimes I watch Donald Trump and these guys, and I think, this is the best of the best. For all our advancements, for all of technology and science and everything else, these guys are what will be remembered for. These were the best. These were our leaders. And you compare, Donald Trump to almost anybody of the past. It's just, you see what I mean? Where's the advancement? Where's the progress? It's worrying, isn't it?
Well, look, content is king. And when it comes to sharing content, if you've got something which looks great, it catches the eye, it catches your senses, it makes you think and question things, it is short and snappy. When it comes to social media posts, you're going to get the interaction. If you've got, a certain quality about you which people are attracted towards, whether it's your knowledge on a certain subjects or whether it's your advice and guidance that you can give, people are going to follow you. Social media is a completely different discussion in and of itself. We're talking about general digital world and embracing it as part of our futures. Yes, there are advantages and there are drawbacks. I think it's important before drawing any conclusion for us to at least try it before deciding. People sometimes make their minds up about things which they've never had any experience of, and they're very,
which in a sense, this is almost a blessing because this is thrust all this upon us, isn't it? This is like, you must
exactly. So right now, lockdown, social distancing rules apply. What do? You use digital media platforms to help get around
which have been around for years, but we've just had an option. So we thought, no, thank you. But now,
there's some things obviously which will never replace. Relationships will never be replaced just digitally. Not proper relationships anyway.
He says.
I'm old-fashioned. I can say that already, eh? And there's some things that will never be replaced. But all in all, it's been a great discussion. We've been on this for an hour. Next week, same time, Tuesdays at 6:00. Make sure you log in, and we'll catch up with you guys then.